Hello and welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. And how to prepare your files in just a moment, we have to take a second out to thank our partner, Fujifilm. Make images, share stories, and experience moments at the speed of life with Fujifilm. Thank you for staying at home with us. And we're back. Welcome, everyone. Glad you could join us. Now, let's dive right in. So, I just went and downloaded a few of these guys. Now, this guy here is actually from a friend of mine, and Joe Paul Bottomley sent this to me because he wanted me to show this, to actually teach this type of a lesson. How to take his old skies that he photographed on film, scanned them, how to prepare them to be used inside Luminar. So let me start with the original. So here's the original. The first thing we have to make sure is there's no distracting elements on the image itself. Here is a little dragonfly and part of the moon. So let's come over to the erase tool and just quickly erase those two objects. Because what's going to happen is when we put that into a sky, that little dragonfly is going to look huge and it's not going to fit properly. All right, now, the size of this image is rather small. Let's look over at the, let's look at the info panel. There we go. And here, if you notice, it's 1572 by 1048. If we go to the user guide and type in, which I already did over here, AI sky replacement, this will give us all the technical specifications we need to make sure that we have a perfect sky. Here, it says we need a minimum of 1200 pixels on the shortest side, or a higher resolution would be preferable. And they also want us to, when we export it with JPEG, use 60 to 85 to keep the file size small. And it can't be no larger than 10 megabits. So now that we have this information here, inside Luminar, let's fix that. So what I'm going to do is this. Instead of, we're going to export that in a moment, but I want to clean it up just a little bit more. I do want to use denoise. Good. In doing that, now the sky is a little soft. So let's bring back some of the detail in the sky. Good. Maybe add a little structure to it. And of course, AI enhancer. Here, oh, there we go. Now we're really getting the sky looking good. All right. And I noticed way down here at the bottom, we'll get rid of that in a moment. All right. In fact, I'm going to crop it out. There. All right. So now that we have the sky edited properly, when I export it, I'm going to come over here and on the short edge, let's make this 2048. Now, Luminar is going to add those pixels for us, so now that the file size will be large enough for what we need inside AI sky replacement. I'm going to see, we'll put it under back. I'm going to put it back into the sky folder. So I want to label this enhance. So now I know I enhanced it. Oh, there's already one in there. I'll replace it. And now it's going to replace it as a JPEG, and it'll put it back into that spot. Now that we have that set, let me go back over here to the AI guidelines. If you decide to capture the skies on your own, here are some suggestions some of the best practices. There we go. Use the following guidelines for the best results. The sky texture should keep the orientation the way you have it. If you have the horizon line crooked, or if there's too many distracting elements on the horizon line, we're not going to get good results. So what they're suggesting here is that we keep the horizon line as straight as possible and as clean as possible. Try to keep away from buildings, try to keep away from trees and different things that'll affect that horizon line. The texture should only contain the sky. Now, the reason for that is when it starts to blend the old sky with the new sky, if you have too many objects in the scene, like we noticed the dragonfly and the little moon, those are going to actually make the texture look a little off. So we got rid of those. If you want to include birds in the scene, just make sure that when you're photographing, the birds are at a distance, because when you put it into a new scene, if those birds are up close, those birds are going to look huge when it comes to replacing the sky. So that's how we're actually taking the photos. When you're shooting, it's best to shoot wider than narrower, so you're having a full range to shoot from. And things to avoid: a telephoto lens, which ironically would have been my first choice. And then after thinking about it, you're right, the telephoto lens would compress the scene and make the skies look closer than they are. So that wide angle lens gives you a better perspective. Make sure you try to avoid images that don't have horizon lines like this here. Or, excuse me, notice down here what we talked about earlier. There is that the horizon line is filled with trees and buildings, and it's going at a weird angle. So even if we tried to crop it, we're not going to get a perfect blend on that horizon line. All right? So let's look at some of these. Like, this is a good example. Those airplanes are going to look huge if we try to replace them in a scene that has the foreground was shot wide, and now we replace it with a telephoto shot like this. It's going to look awkward. And we'll come over here. Now, this is the one we're going to try to use. We can include the sun, and if we need to, we can position the sun out of the scene, or if it looks good, we'll keep it in the scene. So let's come up here to the crop tool, and I want to go to freeform, and I'm going to check right where the horizon line is. And let's bring this down a little bit here. There we go. All right. So that looks good. And then just for a real quick enhancement, I like AI Image Enhancer. And I'll take that and then dial it back just a bit. Right about there. All right. And I'm going to upload it or export it. And again, I got this off of Unsplash. And we're going to call this Enhance. Good. And we have plenty enough pixels, so we're fine here. I already have one, so we'll replace it. And once we're done, now we're going to add this to our image. All right, so here's the fun part. Let's come to the library. Under my collection. Now, I did come up here and marked one. Red, here we go. All right, here. All right. So, now this image here, I've always loved this image. Honestly, the background looks really good, but if we want to make it look different, we'll add one of our skies that we just looked at. So, we'll come over here. Now, you have two choices here. You can enhance the photo first and then add the sky, or add the sky first and then go back and enhance the photo. That's entirely up to you. So let's come into the creative tools. And here we are with AI sky replacement. Now, typically we would come down here and we would load our custom sky, find it and bring it in. That's one way of doing it. If we click down here, download new custom skies, don't confuse that, because what that does is it shoots us out to the marketplace where we can actually purchase or download some of the skies from here. What we can do as another alternative is show the custom skies. Now, this is a folder, and we're allowed to put up to 50 of our own skies in this folder, and they caution not to put too many in, because if we do, it's going to slow the process down. Now, I just downloaded the whole space, the space and planet sky set, so I already put those in. Now I'm going to look through here. What I want to do is I'm going to get rid of some of these, because right now we're at 41. I'll keep that one. Let's get rid of this one. Yeah, let's get rid of that one. Okay. Now, I'm deleting them inside here. That doesn't mean I just deleted the skies themselves, because these were copies. So, what we're going to do is this. I'll right-click on my Explorer, or if you're on a Mac, click on Finder. Now, I'm going to go to that cloud or to the sky folder that I created. Let's see. So, I put that under Quick Transfer. Here we are. So here's the sky folder. Now the one that we just enhanced, let's see, it was this one right here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy it. Once I copied it, we don't need this anymore. I'll come back over to this folder and I'll paste it. Now I have it inside Luminar. So if I come over to the selection tools, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to look for the one that we just created. Now, keep in mind, if we don't see it right away, it's because it's taking time to rebuild this text file here. So what I like to do is go out of it. I'll just pick something else and then go back into the selection and then come down here and look for it. Good, and I believe it's right here. All right, there it is. Now, that moon, or the sun doesn't look natural there. So what we'll do is this. We'll start from the very top, and we'll take the position, and we'll give it a negative position. By giving it a negative value, it's going to move the sky down into place. I could choose to relight the scene. Right about here is good. And then for the sky global, I can see how well I want to match the texture of the original sky with the new sky we're putting in. Now, I'm going to go back to our user guide. So everything that I'm telling you about, talking about right here, can easily be found in our user guide under the AI sky replacement tool. If I click on it, this is going to tell me what each one of those sliders are doing. And so here's what we left off with the texture of the two skies. I could choose to close the gaps. So if there were, let's say, telephone lines or trees and the new sky wasn't filling it in, then I'd use close gaps. Sky local is useful to control the overlapping of the new sky with the original sky. So if there were original clouds and things that, if I try to apply a look to this right now, it's going to erase or it's going to replace everything we just did. So let's come over here to the layers tool and I'm going to click the plus icon and I want to add a new a new adjustment layer. So now I have my new adjustment layer. Here where it looks. Now I can come back in, select a new look, and now the look is going to be applied. I'm going to lower that down just a bit. All right, so I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, I like it. His face is a little dark, so if I come to the portrait tools, I could just light his face up a bit. There it is. Nice. We have that set. Now, I've grown attached. I'm not sure why, but I just have. I love adding the augmented sky. I love adding the birds. Now, notice I can't add the augmented sky, nor can I add a new adjustment sky or a new sky replacement. Those two are meant for the base layer. So if I want to continue, I can just come back down to the base layer that we started with. From the creative tools, augmented sky. And now here I can add the birds. I'm liking those birds. Now watch this. When we go back up to that top layer, the birds come along with it, and it takes on the change that we just created here. So this is looking good. One last thing to tie it all in. I want to create a new image adjustment layer because do you remember, let me go back to here. Right now I have this at 57%. I'm adding a new adjustment layer because the effect I apply to this right now, I want it to start out at 100%. So whenever you do a composite, it's always good practice to apply another tool or a LUT or something to tie everything in together. So there's a couple things we can do. And Luminar makes it real easy. We can just come down here to Mystical. And look at this. I can apply Mystical to the entire image. Let's see, let's smooth this. I want to dial that back a little bit. Good, get the whole warmth for the whole scene overall. All right, now let's look what it does. Let me hide the looks for a moment. Ready? Before, after. You see how it's starting to tie everything in together? Now let's grab a LUTs. And we can just pick any LUTs. Ooh, I like that one. Riverside. And let's dial it back just a little bit. And there we have it. So the original image that we started with, and then adding our own custom skies. All right, so there you have it. The best practices are in the user guide. Pull that up, and if you go out photographing skies, make sure you put that on your phone or something to where you have a reference to it. So when you're out photographing, you'll have that with you while you're taking pictures of your custom skies. If you don't have time or even the desire to photograph your own skies, check out the marketplace. There's a lot of skies on there, or do a search on the internet. Either way, make sure you have rights to use those skies in the images that you're working with. All right? Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you at the next coffee break.